Yo peoples, Kyushu92 here. Firstly, I would like to apologize for the late upload. It's now 7:17 and I've been pretty much chilling just a little bit today, and I got a little bit sidetracked with some other things. But now I'm uploading this video because today, in celebration of One Piece's 20th anniversary, we are on day 15, and today we're going to be talking about a legendary individual who we've all come to know during the Dressrosa arc. We are going to be talking about Donquixote Rosinante, and it just so happens that July 15th is his birthday, so in loving memory of Rosinante. Now, let's get started. So, from the beginning, we know that when Rosinante was, or as his code name is currently known as, Corazon, we know that he was the son of Don Quixote Homing, a father from the long line of world nobles or celestial dragons that decided to leave the holy land of Marijua in order to live in the normal world with everybody else. Of course, the world nobles themselves didn't think it was a good idea, and they pretty much just, after Don Quixote and his family, with Don Quixote Rosinante and Don Quixote do Flamingo, and the wife of Don Quixote Homing as well, they all left the Holy Land of Marijua, and in the process, they pretty much permanently outed themselves from the world nobles, pretty much hierarchy. As soon as they went down, as soon as they left Marijua and went to live with normal people. And in regards to Don Quixote Rosinante, he had his father's benevolence. Like, unlike pretty much all of the world nobles, Don Quixote Homing had a heart of, he was humble. He didn't think himself above people who did not have world noble celestial dragon status. He saw them as equal to himself, and this of course put him at odds with the rest of the world nobles themselves. Because, as you know, the world nobles see themselves as literal gods that anybody on anything that they want, they can have. Like, they literally have slaves as their chairs that they can use to parade themselves throughout the streets. And the world nobles are pretty much the highest authority on the world, in the world, due to their power and status, alongside the Gorosei, who are the highest power underneath them as they control the entire world government. But back to Rosinante. Rosinante is the second son of Don Quixote Homing, and also the younger brother of Don Quixote do Flamingo. And during the years that they lived as normal people, Don Quixote was pretty much calm throughout the whole ordeal. Of course, they were met with some ire because of the villages around them. Because when Don Quixote Homing, when Homing first met with some of the village people down in the world, he let them know that, hey, I used to be a world noble and I actually want to live here now. He came with the goodest and greatest and most honest of intentions. But the people, after enduring so many years, pretty much the entirety of the world pretty much hates the world nobles. So when the village that the Don Quixote family decides to settle in finds out that they're world nobles, it's not long before the villagers decide to take their anger of the world nobles out on Don Quixote Homing and his family. And during the process, the mother of Doflamingo and Rosinante, that she dies due to the poor living conditions that they're stuck in. Because they only have so much money that they leave out with. Sure, they could buy a big mansion if they wanted, but they wanted something humble, so they live on the outskirts of the town. But when the villagers find out where they are, they pretty much raise where they are and start to pretty much pick on the entire family, and at some point they even capture them and try and torture them a little bit. Rosinante throughout this entire ordeal is, well, he's the more soft-spoken person, so whenever all that he endured, and along with his father, because their mother already, like I said, passed away during the time that they lived in the regular world with all the other people. Homing, Rosinante, and Doflamingo are the only people left. So during this time, they keep transitioning to different places, but every time they come to someplace new, the villagers always seem, the people who live in the village that they settle down in always seem to find them, and they end up getting run out of town. So it's in the last moments where Donquixote Doflamingo, who is still a kid at this time, they're all still, both Rosinante and Doflamingo are still kids at this time, but Doflamingo starts to show a little bit of his fury, because his mindset is even though he's no longer considered a world noble, he still has the world noble mindset. Like, during his entire upbringing, up until a certain point, he still thinks he's a world noble, and still talks to people like he's a world noble. Like, he tells people, don't you know who I am? Or why aren't these people moving out of my way? Or you do this, or you do that. Like, he's still a world noble, but they no longer have that status. And during the time when their mother was dying, they tried to get help from the other world nobles that they left. But the Celestial Dragons pretty much just told them, you're trash now. You're in there with the common people, the common trash people now, so we can't ever let you back, because then you'll bring that filth up here. They literally just ousted the entire Donquixote family during that whole time, and the mother dies. So, as Rosinante grows up, he starts to see the monster that his older brother is turning into. Like, even Doflamingo even awakens his Conqueror's Haki at such a young age as a child, and seeing just how evil his brother is turning, his brother pretty much disappears for a little bit. I'm trying to remember. During this time, I believe Doflamingo gets fed up with his father and shoots his father straight in the head. Even though his father, Homing, is pleading to him, saying, I'm sorry for everything I put you through. Like, dude, this dude was once a world noble, one of the most powerful people on the planet, decides to live with us normal people, and then even despite his oldest son getting fed up with the world, getting fed up with being treated like a common person, has him literally at gunpoint. He said, I'm sorry I put you through this. Doflamingo still shoots him. And thus, I believe his brother runs away for a little bit, and he's found by, I want to say, Sengoku. And a couple of years roll by, and Rosinante joins the Navy and becomes a undercover operative that finds his way back to his older brother, now captain of the Doflamingo Pirates, and he finds out that his brother's recruiting children to be part of his crew, but at this time, Rosinante is secretly a Navy operative that's working along with Sengoku to undermine his brother and bring him down. So during this time, he is pretty much working alongside Doflamingo, and he stays silent the entire time because some people in the crew of Doflamingo's think that he's mute because of the things that happened to him when he was a kid, and he just came back and he was silent. Well, he's just silent due to him not ruining his cover, and also because he has the ability, he gained the ability of the Com fruit, which some people say is useless, but I think is extremely useful when it comes to reconnaissance, because that means that he can pretty much talk to anybody he wants to and not worry about anyone listening in. It's a fruit, it's a devil fruit that allows you to create a sphere of silence. Like, you can talk to anybody in this entire sphere and even cause the sounds of anything that you're holding to become quiet as well. We're getting to that. So throughout his years, he becomes an elite officer in Doflamingo's crew, and Doflamingo has no idea that he's an officer at this time. So he's just pretty much cool with his brother being an elite officer, and thus he gives him the title Corazon, which is a title to this, which is just another title that his brother gives him, but it's held in high regard. So throughout his years, Rosinante secretly tries to get as many kids away from Doflamingo that try and join his crew. He tries to dismay them so that way that they can't have any more young recruits. And of course, he tries to do that, but only a few of the kids are able to stay, which is Baby 5 and Babylon. And alongside them, he meets Trafalgar Law. And Trafalgar Law, at this point, he pretty much hates the world because in Trafalgar Law's childhood, he gets a disease called the, I want to say lead poisoning or some type of lead poisoning. I forget the name of it specifically. And he decides that he just wants to destroy the world, or just pretty much, he becomes very nihilistic. So during this time, Corazon tries to dismay him and treats him like trash on purpose in order to get Law to leave, but it doesn't work. So at one time, Law tells Baby Five in Babylon his true name, and Rosinante hears this. He grabs him, takes him to an alley, uses his com ability, and starts talking to him. Now, at this point, no one thinks that Rosinante can talk. But as soon as Rosinante starts talking to Law, Law is like, what? You can really talk? And he starts saying that, what is your name? And he says, Trafalgar D. Water Law. So after Rosinante finds this out, he tells him that Doflamingo is the last person that Law needs to be close to. Because anyone with a D in their name who's close to Doflamingo is pretty much a dead person. So he pretty much takes Law and runs, and then in the process also tries to find the cure for Law's disease, because the disease that was affecting Law has a bit of a low mortality rate. So he only had so much time in order before the disease killed him. So they started going around trying to find a doctor that can help cure the disease, but every doctor keeps turning them away due to the fact that they think it's contagious, even though it's not. It's just something that the world government said was contagious. Yet another thing that the world government covered up. They literally killed everybody in Law's town, including his mother, father, and sister, and all of his friends, and including the nun that took care of him as well, all because the lead, it was some material that was on Law's village island that was very prosperous, but it affected them. It wasn't contagious, but the world government figured better safe than sorry. Let's kill everybody and make sure that no one ever finds out about this, or no one tries to secure it. So Rosinante takes Law all over the world, and he still tries to keep in contact with Doflamingo, but at this point Doflamingo is getting very suspicious about his brother's dealings. And Rosinante also gets in contact with Sengoku during this time, telling him that he's trying to find a cure for Law, and he's still keeping tabs on his brother, because Doflamingo at that point was looking for the fruit, the op fruit, the Ope Ope no Mi, which is essentially the fruit that Law has now, due to its properties and Doflamingo's desire to become immortal. Because what the op fruit can do, its ultimate ability, is grant the person that is operated on immortality. And at this point, Doflamingo wants to be immortal. Like, that is probably the worst thing that could ever happen. An immortal Doflamingo. That's actually a scary thought. But Rosinante's keeping tabs on Doflamingo. He finds out where the island of the deal is going to be, where the op fruit is going to be, and then he forms Sengoku that is going to be at this island. So Rosinante takes upon himself to go to that very same island and take that fruit for himself, because he believes it can be used to help cure Law's disease. So he goes there himself and pretty much takes the fruit, force feeds it to Law, and makes it so that no one else can have that fruit. And during this time, Rosinante and Law grow close, like they're best. They both start to have a genuine respect for one another, because Rosinante still has the heart of his father. So he's doing everything in his power to make sure that Law, he himself told Law, well, albeit with his back turned, that he's extremely sorry for whatever he's going through, and he wish he could take all the pain away. This, of course, causes Law's view of Rosinante to turn from, I don't like this guy, to, wow, this dude's actually trying to help me. So they start getting along after that. So when Law gets force-fed the op-op fruit, Rosinante tries to make their way off the island, but Doflamingo and his crew is there. Doflamingo pretty much takes and kills the crew that was selling the op-op fruit, which is Diaz Drake's dad at that time. And he finds out that Law and Rosinante are there through one of his operatives, Virgo. Now, at this time, Virgo runs into Rosinante and Law first, and he's posing as a Navy officer, because there's a message that Rosinante gives to Law to give to a member of the Navy to give to Sengoku that has incredibly incriminating information about Doflamingo that can very much hurt Doflamingo's operations. Virgo gets this message first, finds out that Rosinante is a double agent, pretty much beats up Law, and then pretty much pummels Rosinante, and then Doflamingo is informed. So during this time, both Law and Rosinante are still trying to get off the island. So I guess at this point, Rosinante decides to hide Law in a treasure chest, and hopefully the Navy will take it and take it with them. So at this point, he gets cornered by, I believe, Diamante, Pika, and a lot of the other members that went with Doflamingo on that island. Doflamingo shows up and questions Rosinante about this. Rosinante reveals himself to Doflamingo, but he doesn't let on that he knows that Law's in the treasure chest that he's laying on, because at this point Rosinante is pretty much very close to death, but it's Doflamingo who deals the final blow to him. So at this point, Rosinante points a gun at his brother, and they're both talking to one another, and Doflamingo says, you're not going to kill me. And then I'm trying to remember all the events. I'm specifically trying to remember all the events that happened. But Rosinante gets shot and pretty much left for dead by his brother. Like, Doflamingo literally shoots his brother because he felt like his brother betrayed him at this point. And to find out that Law has the op-op fruit, this infuriates Doflamingo because now, but at the same time, he just says that, well, Law may have the fruit, but I'll just make him use the ultimate, whatever that ability is called that grants immortality. I'll just make Law a loyal officer of mine and then have him use that operation on me so I can become immortal. So, and then Rosinante lies and says that he's being sent out on a ship with the Navy, so that, being sent out on a ship already. So Doflamingo and the rest of his crew start out and they go out and try to find Law. Well, Law, on the other hand, is being taken on a completely different ship, and Rosinante uses his ability to make sure that Law makes no sounds, because during this entire time, Law's hearing the entire conversation between Doflamingo and Rosinante. And he's, like, awestruck by the fact that Rosinante is doing everything in his power to protect Law. This sends him into tears and he's crying, but Rosinante uses his calm ability to completely silence all sounds of Law, so Doflamingo can never know that Law is directly right in front of him. And Rosinante shows some real willpower when he continues to keep Law quiet with his ability until Law is completely away from Doflamingo and the rest of the crew on a separate Navy ship. Like, dude forced himself to stay alive until Law was completely gone and Doflamingo wouldn't be able to find him. And then Rosinante takes his last breath and dies. And the impact of Rosinante's sacrifice affected Law so much that he literally patterned his Jolly Roger after the smile that Rosinante gave to him. Like, the last face that Law saw of Rosinante is now the Jolly Roger of his crew, which is the Heart Pirates. And Law holds Corazon in very high regard, because in the Battle of Dressrosa, when Doflamingo finally gets injured for the first time, like, he hasn't been injured at all during the entire series up until the Dressrosa arc, but when Doflamingo gets injured from the combined efforts of Luffy and Law, he reveals himself as a D, And he also pretty much starts to try and take his revenge for the death of Rosinante due to her sacrifice, because the entire purpose of Law joining up with Luffy and Punk Hazard was the sole purpose of taking down Doflamingo, and this was done in revenge and out of respect for Rosinante. So the way Rosinante was as a person impacted Law so much that he pretty much helped mold Law into the person that he is today. And Rosinante literally goes down in history as like one of the coolest guys in One Piece. Pretty much. I mean, sure, he was a world noble, but he used to be a world noble with a heart. You don't see many world nobles these days with that. But that's pretty much all I can talk about Rosinante. I could pretty much talk about Rosinante all day if I had the web page up. I want to be completely accurate, but as you know, I tend to paraphrase a little bit. So I apologize for this video being up so late. I hope you all enjoyed my little paraphrase history of Donquixote Rosinante, aka Corazon. And I will see you all in the next video. We have 5 more days to go, and I will not stop until we are done. So as always, I'll see you in the next video. And once again, as always, later, peoples.